Achai v'reya, I want to share with you a story that occurred. It was on Purim, and there was a young man, a young boy, who was a Yasem Mialduse, which means that he was an orphan from a very young age. And it was on Purim, and opposite him was a Chaver HaKoilel, a Gera Yungaman, a young man who was learning in Koilel from the Chasidei Gur. And they're starting to get Lebedik. It's Purim, Chayavinish Lebesuma, Ad Layoda, Bein La'ar Homen L'Baruch Motcha. And somehow or other, this young boy insulted the younger man. He didn't mean to. But somehow or other, he said something that was improper. And because they were both under the stupor of the liquor, the wine, the response of the Koilel fellow, which he regretted immediately, he was chagrined, is that he stood up and he slapped the boy. And everything froze. And no one could believe what he did. And as this young man is reeling from the humiliation of a slap in his face, with the redness and the mark of the hand of the Koilel fellow still in his hand, he jumps up on his chair and he says, the Gemara, the Talmud teaches us, Hamalivim ve'ei meishivim, Hanelovim, those that are embarrassed and they don't respond, the reward is incredible. And it's brought down from great people that that's an incredible eis rotzen, that anything you want, if you don't respond, will be yours. And he said, Hanalovim ve'eino meshivim, I'm giving that zchus to you. I'm giving that zechut to the fellow who embarrassed me. He didn't mean it. This fellow did not have children for 10 years. 9 months later, he had a child. Who brought him that child? The slap brought him the child. Don't go around slapping people. But we don't know in life what we're doing. We don't know in life what's happening 6,000 miles away and what's happening right here on our front doorstep. We're descendants, my brother and I, through my father Zatzal and his mother, Allah Shalom, of the Mezritcher Maggid, the Rebbe Rebbe. And towards the end of his life, he told his Chasidim, his Talmidim, the same way I advocate on your behalf here and now, I'm going to do the same thing for you after 120 years in Shamayim. And he passed away. And he came back in a dream and he said, I can't do anything for you. Because here in Shamayim, it's not a problem. The trials and tribulations, the lack of shidduchim and parnasa, the oppression of the goyim, it's not really a problem. It's really beneficial. What you need to do is to find a contemporary tzaddik, or amongst yourselves, figure out a way to turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for solace and comfort, for Yeshuas, because for where I'm sitting, these aren't terrible things. These are good things. The Imrei Emes took this and he explained the very last pasuk in the Torah of Parashat Shmos. Towards the end of the parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu was in a dialogue with the Rabbeinu Shalom about taking the Jews out of Mitzrayim. Says the Imrei Emes, based on Chazal, there was one person in this world who saw things as they truly were. Moshe Rabbeinu knew that if Klal Yisrael would live out the 400 years in Mitzrayim without any shortcuts, that would be the end of all human suffering for the Jewish nation. We have a cheshbon that it started from Yitzchak, the 400 years of subjugation. There was Avodas Parach, it was twice over. Moshe Rabbeinu knew that if Klal Yisrael would continue suffering for the entire epoch of 400 years. They would enter Eretz Yisrael, they'd receive the Torah, they'd build the Beis HaMikdash. There wouldn't be Churban Bayis Rishon, Churban Bayis Sheni, the rivers of blood that flew at Beitar. There wouldn't be Chalmanitsky, Yamach Shemai. There wouldn't be the Holocaust. None of these things would have happened because of the fact that they would have been in nirvana, in a perfect state. Says the Imra Yemes, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lomo he'ra'oiso lo'am hazeh. Lomo zeh shlachtoni. Why are you sending me? I'm the wrong guy. Because by releasing them from bondage a bit early, it's bad for them. It's not beneficial for them. Do we understand this? We don't have to understand it because we're not Moshe Rabbeinu. And we're not living in Shemayim like the Mezritch Magid. But you have to realize and understand that in the world to come, in Olam Haba, as the Gemara says at the end of the 5th parak of Psachim, the only bracha that's recited, Lasid Lavai, is Atoy V'Ametiv. Here, if you suffer tragedy, Boch Daino Emes. God is the true judge. Lasid Lavai, only Hatoy V'Ametiv, says Rashi, She'en Sham Surara. Hear what Rashi is saying? Things that are happening today are beneficial. But it's bad news to us in this world. And in the world to come, we realize that nothing is bad and everything is beneficial. So in this world, we say, Boch Daino Emes and Hatoy V'Ametiv for a wonderful windfall profit. But Lasid Lavai Ein Sham Surara, it's only Hatoy V'Ametiv. It's a famous Gemara in Brachas and Daf Lamed Daled. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had a child, a son, who Rachman Litzlan L'Aleinu V'Alechem became deathly ill and he was dying. And the Talmidim davened and learned and nothing happened. He was going to die. And a newbie, a freshman, a new yeshiva bacher shows up. His name is Chanina ben Doisa. And he asks him, Chanina, daven sheyichye b'ni, that my child should live. Heniach roishoy ben birkov. He put his head between his knees and he started to daven and the child was cured. What does ben birkov mean? It means crying like a baby, completely dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it means something maybe deeper. Chanina ben Doisa, his head was in the clouds. Chanina ben Doisa never experienced anything negative. Chanina ben Doisa couldn't relate to the fact that the child is dying. That's the Ritzayin Hashem, it's beneficial. He had to take his head out of the clouds and put his head between his knees and experience this world, and then he could daven and save the child. That's what the Zayden Mezritch Magid was saying. Where I sit, these aren't problems. So first and foremost, we have to realize that the Rebbeinu Shalom is beneficent and he loves us and he wants to do the right thing for us. And we don't understand the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we know that ultimately they'll be understood. We still daven, we still pray, we still turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you address an audience, you have to know who you're speaking to. And I've been here before. Let me tell you who you are. Moshe Rabbeinu encounters the sneh, einena ukol. It continues to burn. He recognizes something special is happening. He turns, he looks, he's misbainein, he's nisayrer, and he realizes that it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, stop, freeze, don't move any further. Al tikrav haloim. Shal nalecho mal raglecho. Take off your shoes, because the place that you're standing is a Makom Kadosh. Now the question is obvious. Hashem says, don't move any further, because the sneh is where my divine presence emanates from. That's holy terrain. But where you're standing is okay, so why take off your shoes? And if the place is holy, back off 20 steps. Holy Dover, it seems to be a very simple question. If indeed Moshe Rabbeinu is warned not to move any further, then obviously where he is okay. And if it's okay, why does he have to take off his shoes? The Mashgiach of Lakewood, Hagoyin, Ramatasiyahu Chaim ben Etel Shnaver for Shlema says an ingenious insight. He says there's two types of holy places. There's a Makom Kodesh that's naturally holy, inherently holy. The Beis HaMikdash, the Beis HaKnesses, the Beis HaMedrash, Sforim, Sifrei Torah. And then there's a Makom Kodesh that develops from a Pa'ula of his Eirus, from a Pa'ula of his Beinanus. What does Moshe Rabbeinu do? Asura no ve'era, madua, lo yivar asneh. He took a moment, he thought, he delved into, he was aroused, he was changed. He created a Makom Kodesh. We have the ability to transcend and transform mediocre streets and places of business, becoming a Makom Kodesh. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was telling him. Don't go any further, because that's a Makom Kodesh where my divine presence emanates from. But take off your shoes, because Moshe Rabbeinu, you've just created a new Makom Kodesh. And I'm telling you, I know many of the families here in Queens, the Rabbanim, the educators, the Mechanechim, you create a Makom Kodesh. You take the Kedusha of the Beis HaKnesses, of the Beis HaMedrash, and you infuse it into your homes, into your businesses, into the streets. A Jew has to realize wherever he goes, Vu Megate, Vu Mishtet, Admas Kodesh, it's holy terrain. Chazon Ish Zatzal once stopped in Bnei Brak, and he said, in this spot, Tanoim must have discussed Torah, because I feel that the place has changed. Now, it already had the inherent Kedusha of Kedushat Haaretz, but because Torah was discussed and deliberated, it becomes a Makom Kodesh. Could you imagine if we educate our children that every one of them creates a Makom Kodesh where they go, where they talk, the playground, how they act? That's all part of Makom Kodesh. So in essence, when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to individuals who've transformed this pocket of Americana into a Makom Kodesh. In Tafshin Lamed Zayin, 1977, the state of Israel is sometimes a couple of years behind the United States. So in the beginning of the 70s, we had the famous Roe versus Wade that legalized, Rahman al-Itzlan, infanticide, abortion. And the Knesset was rampant with a large membership that wanted to legalize abortion. And the fellow that was heading the charge was a member of Knesset by the name of Shmuel Tamir. Now you're saying to myself, isn't that Lashon Hara? You're saying to yourselves, no, because listen what happened. Several Gdolim got together and said, we have to do what we can. We have to make an approach. And they asked Hagoyin Rabbi Levin, Zechat Tzaddik Levracha, I knew very well he was Anak Shabanakim, a giant amongst giants, the son of the legendary Rav Aryeh Levine, a brother-in-law of Moran of Yashiv, an uncle of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Rabbi Levine, to join this Mishlachas of Rabbanim to speak to Shmuel Tamir, because Shmuel Tamir was from the Asirei Tzion, those that were imprisoned and those that were involved in the struggle to create the state. And they were all Talmidim and very close to Rabbi Levine, the Tzaddik of Yerushalayim. So the response of Rabbi Foyle was that all those that are going need to daven. We need to daven for 3 days straight before we go. And these Gedolim davened, and he became the spokesman to talk to Shmuel Tamir. And this is what he said. When I was a young boy, a couple came in to visit my father, Reb Aryeh Zatzal, and they requested a heta for an abortion. They said the economic straits were impossible. They wouldn't be able to feed the baby. They wanted an abortion. He spent the entire night, ad halois hashochar, convincing him not to abort the baby and kill the unborn child. 5 months later, the mother gave birth to the baby. 8 days later, my father was the sandik. V'koreh shmoi b'Yisrael Shmuel l'mishpachas Tamir. You are alive because my father would not allow your abortion. Shmuel Tamir, leading member of Knesset, ran out of the room and he called his aged mother and she started crying. It's true, I'm sorry. We had no money, but the Rav convinced us to have you. Shmuel Tamir came back into the room and he promised the Rabbanim, as long as he's in the Knesset, there will never be a bill sanctioning abortion. And kachava. Until he left the Knesset, they couldn't pass the bill. That's the kind of world we're living in. That's the kind of families we are. That's the kind of kedusha that we create. I'm talking now to the mothers, the wives, the grandmothers, the future mothers, and the husbands can listen. The Gemara says in Masechta Saita, "B'schar noshim tzidkaniyas shebayisen adar nigel avesenu miMitzrayim." Then the schar of the women of those days, Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim. What did they do? They came to shiurim from Rabbi Olbaum. They made good lukshin kugel. They dealt with Shmiras Haloshin, with their hour, their golden hour. I remember when Shmiras Haloshin came and they were dividing the hours, they say, I'll take 2 a.m. I'll be from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. I won't talk Lashon Hara. So what did they do? This is what they did. They went and they fetched water from the Mayan, the spring, and a miracle happened. In the bucket there was water and fish, half water. They cooked up the water, they made a hot beverage, they cooked up the fish, and they served their husbands a shore lunch of fish and hot water. Move on. They prettied themselves up, they presented themselves to their husband. 9 months later they had a baby, and they abandoned the baby right underneath the Arbeit macht frei sign, right by the crematorium, and ran for their lives, ran for the hills. Malachim came down and cleaned up the baby from the embryonic fluid of birth, gussied up the babies, gave them combs of honey and combs of oil, and then the Egyptian Nazis heard that there were Jewish babies born in the fields, so they came to massacre those babies, infanticide. Malachim came and pulled them into the earth. They came with oxen to churn up the ground, to plow up the babies further and further in the ground. And that's all the Gemara writes. That's it. B'schar noshim tzidkaniyas. What exactly did they do? You know, in our day, they could say maybe they made their husband's lunch. That's like a big deal. I don't know. I'm married many years. And I was in Kail, and I was a Rebbe and a Rav, and my wife is busy working. I don't remember having lunch, but maybe lunch is a great Chazaq. I don't think that's the thing. The Gemara says, on Daf Yud Beis at Aleph, a Gemara that Moran of Yashiv Zatzal, Rabbi Levine's stellar son-in-law, indexes. The Gemara there says, we just read it in the Torah, Bayelach Ishmi Beis Levi, Me'echan Holach, where did he come from? Says the Gemara, an astounding thing. Amram says, L'shavanu amelim, we're wasting our time being married. Pari is going to kill our kids. Amad v'giresh ishtoi, amdu kulam v'girshin sheiseyim. He gets up, divorces his wife. All of Klal Yisrael, 600,000 males, they all divorced their wives. Miriam was 5 years old. She says, Gzeirascha, your gzeir is worse than Pari. Pari le gazar ela ala zacharim, your gzeir is on the girls also. Maybe mommy will have a daughter. Pari le gazar ela olam hazeh, and your gzeir is olam hazeh and olam haba. What does that mean? Says Rashi, shenayiladim umeisim v'zaychim olam haba. A child is born for a nanosecond, he's already secured his olam haba. Put the two Gemaras together. Well, Yasha says it in 2 lines, takes me a couple minutes. The mothers of that generation had their eyes on securing the Olam Haba for their children. What is motherhood? Motherhood is sticking out your finger and having the baby curl his fingers around your finger. Motherhood is taking the baby after you give birth to the baby and put it on your chest. Motherhood is the bris at 8 days. Motherhood is watching your baby turn over, crawl, walk, run, laugh, cry, smile. 3 years old boy, the upsharon, the bas mitzvah, the bar mitzvah. It's walking your baby down the aisle. It's having and experiencing your baby have a baby. And these Nashim Tzidkani Yeshabais and Adar were willing to be pregnant for 9 months, public enemies number one, to abandon their babies by the gas chamber, know that they're going to be slain, just to secure their Olam Haba. You know what motherhood is? Motherhood is an eye in Olam Haba. Motherhood is, how does this decision affect my child's Olam Haba? How does this camp, this school, this educator, these friends, this lifestyle, these gadgets, that's the kind of children we're raising with an eye on Olam Haba. Vayigdal Moshe, Moshe becomes great. You know what greatness is to the Jewish people? You would think mastering Shas. Greatness is doing for others. Vayetze alecha vayar b'sivloisam nosan eina v'liba liyos meitzar aleim. To be concerned for them, to feel their pain, and to rescue them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what's his Shmai HaGadol? We say this in Birchas HaMazon, those who were not on Atkins. Bavur Shmai HaGadol. Ki hu kelzon, u'mefanes la'koil, u'meitiv la'koil, u'mechim mazayin l'chor b'yisov ha'shabara. Bavur Shmai HaGadol. What is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's great name? Niagara Falls, Victoria Falls, the 7 great wonders of the world, the rainforest, the cosmos, the Milky Way, Jupiter, the sun, the moon, the earth. Shmoi HaGadol ki hu kelzon u'mefanes la'kol u'meitiv la'kol. The greatness of Hashem is that He does for others. Isha Shunamis was called an Isha Gedola, a great woman. She wasn't a Baki in every Ramban on the Torah. Maybe she was. But that's not why she was an Isha Gedola. She gave everything over to others. Kimartcha Yehudi Godol HaMelech. How is he a Godol? Mishnah, and he's Godol HaYehudim. Deirei Shalom Lamai. He's always caring about others. So the key to greatness, to become great, is to do for others. You got to feel the pain. Bilam, he's sentenced to death. He wants the Jews to die. Yisroi, his children are sitting in Sanhedrin, Lishkas Hagalas, the chamber of hewn stones, judging the lineage of the Kehanim. Iyuv, Sheshazaq, he remains silent. Neither be Surin, the terrible trials and tribulations, the pain of Iyuv, says the Briskerov. What do you want from Iyuv? He didn't do anything. There was no thumbs down, there was no thumbs up, he didn't say a word. Says the Briskerov, as a tutvei shreitman, if it hurts, you cry. And if you're not crying, it doesn't hurt. There's a fabulous Gemara in Masechta, Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Chesed Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, Omer Rabba bar Bachona v'chulam b'skirachas niskorin. Everyone is viewed with one glance on Rosh Hashanah. Says Rav Elia Lapian Zatzal, what a perfect protection for the Jewish nation. A person is sentenced to death. He's not going to live out the year. He has no purpose in this world. And the Malachim say, Rabbeinu Shalom, he has a wife, he has children, he has chavrusas, he has friends. His death will affect 500 people. It doesn't happen. Can you imagine next time there's a stabbing, we can't eat lunch, we can't eat supper, we can't learn, we can't daven, it wouldn't happen anymore. It's not just feeling the pain. It's by feeling the pain, we take away the pain. By feeling the pain, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, so many people can't be affected by that pain. Remember the resounding slap. It's not a good thing to do. That fellow didn't have kids for 10 years, upset on Purim. He was so upset at himself. But at the end of the day, that slap got him a baby. We don't know the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What we do know is that we have to strengthen ourselves in our avodah, in tefillah, daven as if we mean it because it changes the world. That's the concept of tefillah. Vayigdal Moshe, Moshe becomes great. There's a lot more to say. We'll save it for another time. I give you a bracha that you should have wonderful lives. Only see good things in your lives. Be matzliach, begeshem v'ruach l'malam and ateva, with shidduchim and parnosa and gesund. Torah shem v'rachim and the greatest simcha b'vias a girl b'meher v'yameinu. Amen.